Good evening. RJ from Game News USA here. Today we're going to talk about the man, the myth, the legend, Nolan Bushnell. Key founder in video game history. We're going to look at his life, his legacy, and what he meant to video games today. But first, please don't forget to hit the subscribe button, and thank you all for watching. So, Nolan K. Bushnell, born February 5th, 1943, is an American businessman and electrical engineer. He established Atari and the Chuck E. Cheese Pizza Time theater chain. He has been inducted into the Video Game Hall of Fame and the Consumer Electronics Association Hall of Fame. He received the BAFTA Fellowship and the nation's Restaurant News Innovator of the Year award, and was named one of Newsweek's 50 Men Who Changed America. He has started more than 20 companies and is one of the founding fathers of the video game industry. He is on the board of Anti-Aging Games. In 2012, he founded an educational software company called BrainRush that is using video game technology in educational software. He is credited with Bushnell's Law, an aphorism about games that are easy to learn but difficult to master being rewarding. Bushnell was born in 1943 in Clearfield, Utah, in a middle-class family who were members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. In other words, he's a Mormon. He attended Davis High School in the nearby town of Kaysville, Utah. Bushnell enrolled in Utah State University in 1961 to study engineering, and then later business. In 1964, he transferred to the University of Utah College of Engineering, where he graduated with a bachelor's degree in electrical engineering. He was a member of some frat house. I'm not going to go over that part, I don't care. He married his first wife, Paula Nielsen, in 1966 and has had 2 daughters. That's nice, but let's get to the meat of what we're talking about. Bushnell worked at Lagoon Amusement Park for many years while attending college. He was made manager of the games department, and that's where it begins. 2 seasons after starting, while working there, he became familiar with arcade electrical mechanical games such as Chicago Coins racing game Speedway from 1969. Watching customers play and helping to maintain machinery while learning how it worked, developing his understanding of how the game business operates. He was also interested in Midway arcade games, where the theme park customers would have to use skill and luck to ultimately achieve the goal and win the prize. He liked the concept of getting people curious about the game, and from there getting them to pay the fee in order to play. Good business model back then. While in college, he worked for several employers, including Litton Guidance and Control Systems, Handley Ltd., and the Industrial Engineering Department of U of U. For several summers, he built his own advertising company, campus company, which produced blotters for 4 universities and sold advertising space around a calendar of events. He also sold copies of Encyclopedia Americana. After graduating, Bushnell moved to California from Utah with the hopes of being hired by Disney. But the company was not in the routine practice of hiring fresh college graduates. Instead, Bushnell got a job as an electric engineer with Ampex. At Ampex, he met fellow employee Ted Dabney and found they had a common interest. Bushnell shared his ideas of creating pizza parlors filled with electronic games with Dabney, and took Dabney to the computing labs at Stanford Artificial Intelligence Laboratory to show him Space War. In 1969, Bushnell and Dabney formed a company with the intention of producing a Space War-like clone known as Computer Space. Dabney built the prototype and Bushnell shopped it around, looking for a manufacturer. They made an agreement with Nutting Associates, a maker of coin-operated trivia and shooting games, that produced a fiberglass cabinet for the unit that included a coin slot mechanism. Welcome to the arcade, folks. Computer Space was a commercial failure. Though sales exceeded 3 million, Bushnell felt Nutting Associates had not marketed the game well and decided that his next game would be licensed to a bigger manufacturer. Bushnell also knew that the next game they developed would need to be simpler and not require users to read instructions on the cabinet, since their target audience would most likely be drunken bar patrons. And that is right, folks. For those of you that don't know, gaming was not born or made for children. It was made for drunk college students, drunk people leaving the bar in the 1970s. I'd hate to break it to you, it's not as humble as a beginning as you think it is. In 1972, Bushnell and Dabney set off on their own, and Bushnell said at times that the name Zigzee was used by a candle company known as a hippie commune. So therefore, they opted for the name Atari, a name that most of you are probably familiar with. They rented an office space in Scott Boulevard, Sunnyvale, California, contracted with Bally Manufacturing to create a driving game, and hired a second employee, engineer Alan Alcorn. Bushnell originally wanted to develop a game similar to Chicago Coin Speedway, which at the time was the best-selling electromechanical game at his arcade. Bushnell purchased Danby's share of Atari for $250,000 in 1973. Thus, that's why you don't hear too much about Dabney. Bushnell bought him out. To get more arcade games to the market and bypass exclusivity limitations that coin-op games distributors had set, Bushnell discreetly had his neighbor, Joe Keenan, establish Key Games in 1973 to manufacture near copies of Atari's games. Even with Key's output, Atari had difficulty meeting the demand for arcade games, and by 1974, Atari was facing financial hardship, in part due to competition in the arcade game market. Bushnell opted to merge Key Games into Atari in September of '74, just ahead of the release of Tank, a wholly original arcade game from Key. Tank was an arcade success that helped bolster Atari's finances. Keenan became president of Atari and managed its operations while Bushnell retained his CEO role. With the company financially stable, Atari entered the consumer electronics market with its home Pong consoles, which many of you believe is the first video game possibly ever made. However, it was probably just one of the first arcade games that really became that popular. Atari continued to make variants of existing arcade games for dedicated home consoles until 1977. when former Atari employees Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak, that's quite a roster, had they approached Joe Keenan to establish. Messed up. Atari faced more competition in both arcades and home consoles in 1975 onward. Bushnell recognized that the cost of developing both types of systems with only limited shelf life was too high, and directed Atari's engineers at Cyan Engineering towards a programmable home console. This console eventually was released in 1977 as the Atari VCS. Wow. So this guy helped produce some of the earliest arcade games that were popular, and he helped lift Atari into the forefront of the home console market. This man even had Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak working under him at one point. My God, this is clearly one of the greatest founders of video games we've ever had. And Bushnell does deserve some success. He also was involved in Chuck E. Cheese. In 1977, while at Atari, Bushnell purchased Pizza Time Theater back from Warner Communications. It had been created by Bushnell originally as a place where kids could go to eat pizza and play video games, which would function as a distribution channel for Atari games. Chuck E. Cheese Pizza Time Theater also had animatronic animals. They were creepy, by the way, for entertainment. It is known that Bushnell had always wanted to work for Walt Disney, but was continually turned down for employment when he was first starting out after graduation. Chuck E. Cheese was his homage to Disney and the technology developed there. In 1981, he turned over the day-to-day operations of Chuck E. Cheese to a newly hired restaurant executive. And let's see, what's Bushnell doing now? BrainRush is a company that uses video game technology and educational software, where he is founder, CEO, and chairman. The company was a venture capital funded in 2012. It is based on the idea that mini curriculum lessons can be turned into mini games. So as Bushnell has gotten up there in age, I believe he is still alive. He's taken upon himself as a cause to keep old people engaged mentally through these mini games. And I think that that is a worthy cause towards the end of Bushnell's run of his life and his career. And it's admirable. And I think that Bushnell has done almost more than anybody in the States when it comes to progressing video games along. And so that's why I made this retrospective today, so we can salute Nolan Bushnell as we enjoy many of the games from the past and hopefully continue to enjoy games in the future. That's it for today. I'm signing out. Have a good one. Peace.